Welcome back to Viking basketball with Coach Barret Peery as the Vikings get ready to play basketball right here in the Viking Pavilion for the first time in quite a while. The Vikings have 6 home games coming up in their final 8 in the Big Sky Conference schedule, and Portland State very happy to be home. The point we look at right now, the Vikings have played the fewest home games of any team in the Big Sky Conference. So an opportunity to have a good run-up to the Big Sky tournament. You must be really happy to be back in Portland.
I agree with all those things. We're really excited to be home. That number that you threw out there, the fewest home games in the league and 3 home games since New Year's, has been hard. It's been challenging. As we looked at that schedule on paper this summer, I looked at it and said, yeah, that'll be okay, but we can manage it. It's been hard. Travel is tough. Teams are good. Everybody's beating each other. And so we've seen through our travels that each night is a new night. There's no givens, but we are excited to be home.
And what do you do as a head coach when you have that many road games, maybe motivating your team, keeping them up, keeping them healthy? That's another thing when you travel. What are some of the challenges you have?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think as you go through the season, you have your injuries, you have your health, and all those things combined with not being in your own bed and being at home can be challenging. Never mind the fact that people have played really well at home this year in our league and protected home court pretty well. And like you said, we have 6 out of the next 8 at home. We want to do the same.
Okay, and we'll take a look real quickly at some of those games in the past. Now, the Vikings have played 8 on the road in the Big Sky, 2-6. You would like to be a little better than the 2-6, but the interesting thing when you look at that, the 2 wins are against the 2 Big Sky powerhouses, Montana and Weber State. So even though the record not quite what you want, you got some great wins in there. So how do you make all that fit together with your program? What does that tell you about your team?
Tells us that we can beat anybody and lose to anybody is what it simply is.
That's conference basketball.
Yeah, that's conference basketball at its finest, and I think you see that every night around the country. Seeing big names go down and seeing, whoever on the road, at home. One thing we have in our pocket is we've shown we can beat anybody, but we've also shown that if you don't show up and be great, you can lose to anybody. But much respect goes out to the teams in our league right now. People are playing good basketball and people are beating up on each other. I think people are having a hard time picking who will win from night to night. And as you and I have talked about, this schedule and these rankings are really jumbled up right now. The difference between 5th and 4th and 11th or 4th and 10th is not very much right now. And a weekend can change a lot for any one given team.
Okay, and then the one other thing that we take a look at, the Vikings have been up and down with their shooting this year, but then I look at the stats and I see Portland State shooting over 75% at the free throw line in conference play, an excellent number, well improved from non-conference play. So how do you kind of equate that, the excellent free throw shooting and the inconsistent field goal shooting, and what are some of the remedies you look for there?
I should take credit for the free throw shooting, but I don't. I think that we have spent a lot of time at it. We've told ourselves that, guys, we've probably put ourselves behind the 8 ball and lost some games simply at the free throw line earlier in the year, and so the guys have taken that to heart and done a good job of being a good free throw shooting team, stepping up and making shots. We've still been a very good rebounding team, but our inconsistent shooting has hurt. But also I think partly that's the road. You're not always going to shoot great on the road, and we've played a lot of road games.
And as we take a look at the numbers, Vikings shooting percentages here in the Viking Pavilion, obviously dramatically better. We look to that this week as we have a couple opponents coming in. Expect that this week. One thing I saw in your most recent game, a guy who hasn't been real productive lately, partly because of some injury issues, Michael Nuga, had 19 points on Monday night. He's a guy I know you need in that offense to kind of get it going. And what do you see from him? Is he kind of come back to what we saw early in the year?
Yeah, I think he's healthy, and I think his confidence is back up. You hit the nail on the head a little bit with his health. He's had some little minor things that have slowed him down some, and then I've probably slowed him down a little bit too. I probably was a little too hard on him last week with some of his defense, which took him out of the game a couple of times, and I got to do a better job with him of keeping his confidence up and letting him go in and score the ball. We need him to score the ball. That opens up things for everybody.
Okay, and then as we look ahead now, the Vikings playing Northern Arizona on Thursday night. They play Southern Utah on Saturday night. And as I look at the next 6 games, they're all teams that are right in a jumble along with the Vikings. They're all between 5th and 11th place. So these next 6 games, obviously every game is important to win, but these games can really help you in the standings.
Yeah, you look at the schedule, and for the first time all year, you feel like it is a favorable one for us. Not only because at home, but teams that we've played, teams that we've beaten, but also just teams that we match up well with and we think we can play with. So we definitely have to throw all the coach speak jargon out there and say it's one game at a time. NAU is most important because that's the next one, but at the same time the schedule looks much more favorable for us than it did a month ago.
And as the Vikings play Northern Arizona on Thursday night, if they can beat Northern Arizona, they are guaranteed to move up at least one spot in the standings. And I know we want to get up in that top 5, and there's still plenty of time to get that done. Talk a little bit about Northern Arizona and Southern Utah. Both teams just slightly ahead of the Vikings in the standings. Both teams that are improved this year over what they were last year. You had some troubles with them when you were on the road earlier this season. They got wins against the Vikings. So tell us a little bit about those teams.
Give both teams credit for how they've played this year. They are improved, and they're playing better than they did last year, and their confidence is up. That road trip for us, by far the toughest road trip we've had in 2 years here. While I've been here, as far as just we didn't play well at all. We turned the ball over at just an alarming amount in those 2 games, 25 times in Cedar City and then another 23 in Flagstaff. We have cleaned that up since, knock on wood, but we feel like we get and understand what we needed to do. But that was just a tough weekend for us, and we had opportunities to win both games, even though our stats and our numbers were just brutal at times.
Okay, the Vikings playing here in the Viking Pavilion, 7 p.m. tip-off Thursday night, 7 p.m. tip-off Saturday night against Southern Utah. What are the Vikings going to have to do? You probably alluded to it right there, taking care of the ball, but what do they have to do to get a couple wins this week?
We have to defend at a high level. We have to defend with passion. We have to be very gritty and tough. We have to rebound the ball. One of the things that we didn't do in that NAU game before is just flat out sit down and guard the ball. We didn't do a good job keeping out of the paint, and it created opportunities for their shooters. And then we have to rebound. And as we rebound, we got to go and score. We got to take advantage of our opportunities in transition.
All right, there it is. The Vikings getting ready for a lot of home basketball. Come out and see Portland State 6 of the next 8 games right here in the Viking Pavilion. You can get all your information on Viking basketball at govikes.com.